Welcome to Boxing Revival. In this video, I have ranked the top 10 best boxers of the 1960s. With the retirement of boxing legends in the past decade, such as Rocky Marciano, Ezzard Charles, Sandy Sadler, Willie Pep, and the decline and the impending retirement of Sugar Ray Robinson, the sport needed a new hero to count on. Muhammad Ali embraces that role, and would go on to dominate the boxing world. In this decade, the boxing fights were shown on the colored television for the first time. The junior middleweight was created as the newest division. The National Boxing Association changed its name to World Boxing Association, and the World Boxing Council was constituted. This decade has a lot of legendary boxers, with different countries producing their first world champions. Many legendary fights and great boxing events happened in this decade. So let's take a look, who is the greatest boxer of the 1960s. At number 10, Luis Manuel Rodriguez. The Cuban boxer was the world welterweight champion in 1963, when he defeated Emil Griffith. Although he never won a world title again, Rodriguez still faced and defeated the top boxers of the division, such as Benny Parrott, Virgil Akins, Curtis Coax, Vicente Rondon, and Benny Briscoe. At number 9, the Big Bear, Sonny Liston. The American was the undisputed heavyweight champion from 1962 to 1964, knocking out Floyd Patterson in back-to-back fights. But he would lose his titles in his next fight, when he was defeated by Muhammad Ali in 2 consecutive fights. Overall, Sonny Liston was still one of the best heavyweight of all time. At number 8, Nino Benvenuti. He was considered as one of the greatest Italian boxers of all time. He started the decade by winning a gold medal in the 1960 Olympic Games. He was the world light middleweight champion from 1965 to 1966, and was a 2-time undisputed middleweight champion from 1967 to 1970. During his reign, he defeated many great boxers, such as Sandro Mazzinghi, Don Fulmer, Emil Griffith, and Luis Manuel Rodriguez. At number 7, Vicente Soldivar. The Mexican legend was one of the greatest southpaw boxers of all time. He reigned as the WBA, WBC, and lineal featherweight champion from 1964 to 1967, making 8 successful defenses. During his great career, he defeated Ismael Laguna, Sugar Ramos, Jose Legra, and Howard Winstone. At number 6, the Japanese boxing legend, Masahiko Fighting Harada. In 1962, he defeated Phone King Pech to win the World Flyweight Championship, holding the title until 1963, and reigned as the undisputed bantamweight champion from 1965 to 1968, when he defeated Edgar Joffrey in 2 consecutive fights. At number 5, the greatest boxer from Brazil, Edgar Joffrey. He was the bantamweight world champion from 1960 to 1965, making 8 successful defenses. Although he suffered back-to-back losses to Fighting Harada, which was the only losses of his career, Joffrey still holds wins over Claudio Barrientos, Jose Medel, and Johnny Caldwell, and was one of the greatest bantamweight champion of all time. At number 4, Emil Griffith. The boxing legend from the U.S. Virgin Islands was a 3-time champion in the welterweight division, and reigned as the undisputed champion from 1963 to 1966. and from 1966 to 1968, he reigned as a two-time undisputed middleweight champion. During his legendary career, he defeated many great boxers, such as Benny Parent, Dick Tiger, Nino Benvenuti, and Luis Manuel Rodriguez. Before we move to the top 3, let's take a look at our honorable mentions, the boxers who misses out on the top 10, but produces great careers in the decade. In this list is Bob Foster. He was one of the best light heavyweight champion of all time. And he started in this decade his domination of the division when he knocked out Dick Tiger in 1968. He defended his titles until 1974, making 14 successful defenses. Up next is the Cyclone, Gene Fullmer. He is the world middleweight champion from 1959 to 1962, making 7 title defenses. During his reign, he defeated 2 boxing legends, Carmen Basilio in 1960, and Sugar Ray Robinson in 1961. However, Fullmer retired in 1963, after back-to-back losses to Dick Tiger. Up next is Ruben Olivares. He was one of the greatest boxers from Mexico, and started in this decade his bantamweight reign. In 1969, he defeated Lionel Rose for the WBA, WBC, the Ring, and Lineal bantamweight titles. He would go on and reign as one of the greatest bantamweight of all time. Up next is Jose Napales. The Cuban-born Mexican boxer won the WBA, WBC, and the Ring welterweight titles in 1969 when he defeated Curtis Coates. He defended the titles against Coates in their rematch and against Emil Griffith, and would go on and reign as one of the greatest welterweight of all time. Up next is Joe Brown. The American was one of the greatest lightweight champion of all time. He reigned from 1956 to 1962, making 11 successful defenses. Ring magazine named Joe Brown as the Fighter of the Year in 1961. Up next is Flashy Lordy. He was considered as one of the greatest boxers from the Philippines. He reigned as the super featherweight champion from 1960 to 1967, making 10 successful title defenses, and became the longest reigning super featherweight champion in boxing history. Up next is Curtis Coates. The American boxer was the WBA, WBC, and the Ring welterweight champion from 1966 to 1969, making 5 successful title defenses, before losing the titles to Jose Napales. Also in this list is the Gentleman of Boxing, Floyd Patterson. He was a 2-time heavyweight world champion, becoming the first heavyweight boxer in history to regain the title after losing it. He reigned from 1960 to 1962, before losing the world title to Sonny Liston. Up next is Jose Torres. The Puerto Rican boxer was the undisputed light heavyweight champion from 1965 to 1966, making 3 title defenses. During his great career, he defeated Bobo Olson and Willie Pastrano. Up next is Sugar Ramos. He was famously known for the tragic death of Davey Moore in their 1963 fight. The Cuban-born Mexican was the world featherweight champion from 1963 to 1964. Up next is Willie Pastrano. The American was the WBA, WBC, and the ring light heavyweight champion, from 1963 to 1965, successfully defending his titles 3 times. Up next is Phone King Fetch. The Thailand great was a 3-time flyweight world champion. In 1960, he defeated Pascual Perez to win the lineal and the ring flyweight titles. And in 1963, he defeated the Japanese legend Fighting Harada. Up next is the untouchable Nicolino Locci. He was one of the best boxers from Argentina, and one of the greatest defensive boxers of all time. He was the WBA, the ring, and lineal light welterweight champion from 1968 to 1972, making 5 successful defenses. Up next is Ernie Terrell. He was the WBA heavyweight champion from 1965 to 1967. During his career, he defeated Bob Foster, Cleveland Williams, and George Chuvalo. Up next is Harold Johnson. Although his best years was in the 1950s, where he defeated a lot of legendary boxers. In this decade was where he won a world title. He was the light heavyweight world champion from 1961 to 1963, making 4 successful defenses. At number 3, Dick Tiger. Considered as one of the best boxers from Nigeria, Tiger was a 2-division champion in the middleweight and the light heavyweight divisions. He was a 2-time undisputed middleweight champion from 1962 to 1966, and the undisputed light heavyweight champion from 1966 to 1968. During his legendary career, he defeated many great boxers, such as Gene Fullmer, Joey Giardello, Jose Torres, and Nino Benvenuti. At number 2, Carlos Ortiz. Considered as one of the greatest boxers from Puerto Rico, Carlos Ortiz was a 2-division champion. He was the lineal light welterweight champion from 1959 to 1960. Carlos Ortiz was a 2-time undisputed lightweight world champion from 1962 to 1968. During his reign, he defeated many boxing greats, such as Joe Brown, Flash Elordi, Ismael Laguna, and Sugar Ramos. At number 1, Muhammad Ali. He started this decade by winning the gold medal in the light heavyweight division of the 1960 Olympic Games. In 1962, he defeated the legendary Archie Moore. And in 1964, despite being a heavy underdog, Muhammad Ali stopped the defending champion Sonny Liston to win the heavyweight world title. And then defeated Sonny Liston again, in their rematch in 1965. He defended the heavyweight title over Floyd Patterson, George Chuvalo, Henry Cooper, and Ernie Terrell. Although he did not fight from 1967 to 1970, because of his refusal to be drafted in the military service, Muhammad Ali still dominated the boxing in the 1960s. And started in this decade, the career of one of the most celebrated athletes of all time.
I'm gonna float like a butterfly and sting like a bee.
This is boxing. Boxing lives on. Continue to support this beautiful and exciting sport. Thank you for watching. For more boxing stories, boxing fights, and boxing news, subscribe on this channel. Click the notification bell for more updates. because in this channel, together we will revive the boxing world.